Hey guys, so I have a story about uh, an intense meth trip that I had. So this was a few months ago. It's probably like the sixth time I had attempted quitting. Um, I was running around in the street and I wouldn't, cause I stay with my family and they're really cool. They're really nice people. But they don't allow drug usage in the house, and I could not quit. Like I could not bring myself to stop. I couldn't function at the time, and I just had no hope that I would ever be able to stop because I would just compulsively eat and sleep. I couldn't even get out of bed. I just felt an overwhelming sense of dread and doom anytime I didn't have it, and the only thing that could keep me going was to be on the move to get more. So at the time, I was running around the streets and I was trying to stay at the house and still use, and that wasn't working out because I was intoxicated. I couldn't talk to them without them knowing. So but I kept coming back to the house, and eventually my family was like, okay, we're gonna put you in rehab, and I agreed to go. And so I went out of state to Kentucky to this rehab. It was a very nice place, but at the time, because I have eating disorder issues, well, I had a complex, and most of it came from the meth, because I could not control myself every time I come down, until finally getting sober this time, I am gaining structure and healthy eating habits, but and my body was all broken down. Like I couldn't exercise without my like feeling like I was gonna collapse and just everything. So I just kept eating and sleeping, and when I went to the rehab, I was only there for like 3 days, and I was just mad and angry at myself because I just kept eating and I was gaining weight, and it was embarrassing, and I was obsessed. I was like, I'm not going to gain this weight, and I was depressed and I didn't want to be there. I was like, all right, so I signed myself out, and I was like, I'm just going to try to start a life here in Kentucky. And so for like 3 weeks I was running around, and like all kinds of crazy stuff happened. Most of the days I would just walk around all night. I ended up catching a couple hotels. I met some crazy people. I went to a shelter, got kicked out of there because I had an angry outburst. So this was about like the 3rd week, and I was run down. So like I was going insane, like just walking around talking to myself. And I had already gotten a police ticket from stealing food from a store and just being stupid. But and I was on meth somehow. Yeah, I left like immediately the first day that I left. I found some meth. That's everywhere in Kentucky. Yeah. I was just running from house to house, random people I didn't know, and just I had like a few things on me. Like I had like one bag of clothes and a watch and stuff, and I traded all my stuff for meth. And so this was like by the 3rd week, I was just like, I ended up way out in the country, kind of, and at this point I was just going insane. I knew like I was gonna end up in jail soon. I knew I was going, I don't know, it was hitting a breaking point. The voices I was hearing was getting crazier and crazier, and I was just angry, like having long arguments, like at this point it was like 2 days. I was just arguing with the voices of old friends and demons and scary stories that they were telling me. I was arguing with them, and I just felt like the devil was out to get me, and I was convinced that it was my fault, that it was going to be the end of all eternity, and it was just going to be somehow the things that I came in contact with were going to sync up as this evil spirit and take over all matter and turn into anger and violent matter just by this one being. Like I sold the soul of all life to this demon. So I was like crazy. So this really nice person picked me up, and they hooked me up with a hotel, and yeah, and of course they smoked too. And he was like, all right, I'm just like, I'm worried about you. It was almost like a spirit guide. Like, it was definitely like God has been like planned. Like, every person that I come in contact with, it was a calculated plan for them. It was almost like a movie. Like, they were reading a script, and because he just got me this free hotel and bought me all this food. And so that night, he was like, yeah, you can call me the next day if you want to hang out. It's just on me. And tomorrow, if you want, you could come hang out with me and my wife, and we all smoke and we can have fun. And so I was like, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I was pretty stoked. That night, the hotel, it was crazy. There was a picture on the wall, a painting, and it was a guy. Okay, it was exact like replica of one of my exes that I was pretty close to, and he was wearing the same outfit that I was wearing, and like, so, because I was still hearing voices, so I started, and then like the painting started moving where he was talking to me. He was like, and it was so relieving though, because it was finally the first comforting voice that I had heard in a long time. And he was like, you're losing it, like, get yourself together now. Like, we pretty much I talked for hours to that painting, and it was just silly. And he flipped the story around, the scary story that was going on. It was like, okay, actually what this is everything is you. I am you. You're split into, it's pretty much like, so like a flip on Greek mythology, and it's all the same guy. It was me, and he was like, okay, each one that he met, it was me. He met in this alien, and it was like this new tech world, and they split him into a bunch of different gods, and each one had failed up until, and then I was the next one, and it was like, he was like, I don't know, I was an important piece to the puzzle, because it was all existence is connected in this one being. It's like a battle between us and something else, and I'm not supposed to know what it is, the position that I'm in. And he was like, but yeah, thanks to me, like, this part of us, you're safe here. Unless you keep fucking up, then I don't know if I could trust you. I might have to destroy you. But yeah, he was like, if you finally did it, you might get to survive this. We might figure out the answer and solve this mystery, this puzzle, but I can't, like, it's gonna be a surprise for me as we go, if I'm able. So I don't know. It's really complicated. And then he was like, this is what's gonna happen though to you if you fail me. I was gonna be turned into pretty much like a giant city, but like it was gonna feel like pretty much like everything moving like in the city. Like, it was gonna be like I was just frozen, and it was just bugs, like bugs crawling all over me. But it was actually like a giant city, and just like I was made up of buildings and all these ants running around on me. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen Maggot Brain, that song, the cover, like kind of like the picture of like the afro, like it was like actually just a bunch of creatures, and yeah, and I was gonna be stuck there. I don't know, it was crazy complicated, but and that conversation went on for hours, and I ended up watching this TV show that was confirming everything that the picture was saying to me. Everything that was coming from the TV was matching up with his story. Like, and he showed me the picture of everything of like, oh my god. It's hard to explain, but yeah. So, and then I ended up walking around the city that night. I left the hotel and just walked around looking for more drugs for a few hours and didn't find any. Luckily, I was safe, and I came back and went to sleep, and finally, like, that was like the first relief I had had in a long time since being in Kentucky. But yeah, the next day I ended up like after some sleep, like all of that was, it was cool, and there was all these signs telling me like all this stuff I had to be grateful for that I had forgotten about. I was finally like remembered how big it is just to be alive, and for the first time in a long time without, like, I woke up that morning, no drugs, and yeah, and I was just, all these things came to me to be grateful for. And I called the guy that got me the hotel, and this was crazy, like, so I knew, man, okay, so he had a big house with his wife, like, it was like a few minutes away, and he was like, all right, we can come chill and smoke, and I don't know, like, as soon as I started smoking, of course, everything flipped again. Everything got crazy. Like, there was just all this tension there. I felt like I had known these people. And they were familiar faces, similar to, it was like a combination of all these old friends that I used to have. Like, my mom, like this old girl that I used to know, like several of my girlfriends, like all rolled up into one person that was his wife, and then a few of my old friends all rolled up into him. And it was like pieces of all these people that I had known in them. And they were pretty much like, if you can't quit, like, we can't be your friend, because that was it. He was like, because everything was fine when I wasn't, and then I just kept using and using as we were hanging out, and they kept getting angrier and angrier. But it was like, yeah, and it's hard to explain. It was like reading in between the lines, like, are you going to stop, or are you going to test this and see what happens and go into a bad trip again? And I chose to just keep pushing it and pushing it, because I didn't understand, like, why is this even an option? So that didn't go well. I was like, I ended up begging them to let me stay, and they were like, no. Like, the dude was like, his wife was cool, but he was like, no, you need to go. I was like, what? I thought it was cool. Like, we're all smoking, you know. How come when I do now everything flips? It didn't used to be like that. But I had all these questions, and I started dumping out all my questions about life and everything that had been going on onto these people that I barely knew, even though I knew that I knew them from. But yeah, he was like, I'm not gonna answer any of your questions. You're retarded. Like, pretty much, like, was a sign, like, call us back when you get your shit together. So they dropped me off back at the shelter that I was kicked out of, and there was all these people out there, these crazy, like, Mormon cult looking people. And as soon as I stepped out of the car, I just broke down rambling. I just couldn't stop myself. And it was like I was like, just like this movie, what is it? Oh, I can't remember. It was like I was on some type of track, like reading off of cue cards, and I could not stop myself. But it was the feeling, the emotions were so intense. It wasn't fake. It was all real. It was all mashed up to everything that had been happening, but it was completely 100% no control over what I was saying. And I was like telling these people, like just walking around rambling, telling these people